Jake Mitchell stood at the large window of the council chamber, watching the twin suns of Kepler Prime set behind the mountains. The red and orange light painted the sky in colors that reminded him of Earth's sunsets. He wondered if he would ever see Earth again after today's meeting. Behind him, the voices of 12 alien species filled the massive room. The chamber was built like an arena, with seats rising up in circles around a central floor. Each species had their own section, decorated with symbols and colors from their homeworlds. The humans had the smallest section, with only 3 seats. Jake sat in the middle, with Dr. Lisa Brown on his right and Commander Ryan Torres on his left. The Zephyrians dominated the chamber with their tall, blue-skinned forms and silver robes. Their leader, Chancellor Vextai, had been speaking for almost an hour. His voice was cold and formal, like someone reading from a legal document. The Korthek delegation sat across from the humans, their gray, rock-like skin making them look like living statues. General Fulzen, their military leader, kept his 4 red eyes fixed on Jake throughout the entire speech. "The evidence is clear," Chancellor Vextai continued, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Humanity has expanded into 47 star systems in less than 2 centuries. No other species has grown so fast or so far. They build weapons that can destroy planets. They train soldiers who fight without fear. They take resources from worlds that other species have claimed for thousands of years." Dr. Brown leaned toward Jake and whispered, "He's making us sound like monsters." Jake nodded but kept his face calm. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 5 years. He knew how to hide his feelings, even when aliens were calling his entire species dangerous criminals. Furthermore, the Chancellor continued, humans refuse to follow the standard colonization protocols. They settle on worlds without proper surveys. They build cities near dangerous areas that other species avoid. They ignore our warnings about unstable regions of space. Commander Torres shifted in his seat. Jake knew the military man was getting angry. Torres had served in the human fleet for 20 years. He had seen humans risk their lives to save alien crews from pirates and natural disasters. Hearing his people called reckless and dangerous was hard to accept. The Altarian representative, a being that looked like a walking tree with golden leaves, spoke up. "We must also consider the human tendency toward violence. Their entertainment includes stories of war and conflict. Their children play games that simulate combat. Even their sports involve physical contact and aggression." "That's not fair," Dr. Brown said quietly. "They're taking everything out of context." Jake had heard these arguments before. The aliens feared humanity because humans were different. Most galactic species were peaceful by nature. They had evolved beyond the need for physical conflict. Wars between alien species were rare and usually ended quickly through negotiation. Humans were different. They came from a world where survival meant fighting against nature, predators, and sometimes each other. They had learned to be strong, to adapt, to never give up. These traits made them excellent explorers and defenders, but they also made other species nervous. General Fulzen stood up, his massive form casting a shadow over the chamber. "The Korthik Dominion has monitored human military exercises. Their weapons are designed for total destruction. Their tactics focus on overwhelming force. They train their soldiers to fight until death rather than surrender." "We train our soldiers to protect innocent people," Commander Torres said loudly. "We've saved millions of alien lives from pirates and disasters." "Silence!" Chancellor Vextai commanded. "Humans will speak only when given permission." Jake stood up slowly. "I request permission to address the council." The Chancellor looked around the chamber. Most of the alien delegates nodded their agreement. A few, including the Altarian and a small, furry creature from the Villani Collective, seemed reluctant. "You may speak, Ambassador Mitchell," the Chancellor said. Jake walked to the center of the chamber, where a small platform waited for speakers. He looked around at the 12 alien delegations, seeing fear and suspicion in their eyes. He had spent 5 years trying to build trust with these beings. Now all of that work was crumbling. "Honored delegates," Jake began. "I understand your concerns about humanity. We are different from you. We come from a harsh world that taught us to be strong, but that strength has always been used to protect, not to destroy." He gestured toward the viewing screens that showed star maps of the galaxy. "You say we expanded too quickly, but look at where we went. We settled in the outer rim territories, far from your core worlds. We chose difficult planets that no one else wanted. We didn't take anything from you." The Zephyrian Chancellor interrupted. "You took systems that were marked for future colonization. Systems that had been marked for colonization for over 1,000 years, Jake replied. Systems that you never actually settled. We turned dead rocks into living worlds. We created new trade routes that benefited everyone." Dr. Brown activated her datapad and projected images into the chamber. The pictures showed human colonies, cities built into mountainsides, farms carved from desert wasteland, space stations orbiting dangerous pulsars. "Look at these worlds," Jake continued. "We didn't conquer them, we earned them. Every human colony was built through hard work and sacrifice. We made life possible in places where other species saw only death." The Villani representative, a small creature with large, dark eyes, spoke softly. "The humans helped us when the Crimson Nebula threatened our home system. They risked their lives to evacuate our people." "And they asked for nothing in return?" added the Altarian. "They refused payment for their assistance." Chancellor Vexti's expression grew colder. "These isolated incidents do not change the fundamental problem. Humanity is unpredictable. They act without consulting this council. They make decisions based on emotion rather than logic." "We make decisions based on what's right," Jake said firmly. "When people need help, we help them. When innocent lives are in danger, we protect them. If that makes us unpredictable, then I'm proud to be unpredictable." General Fulzen stood again. "This proves our point. Humans believe they know better than the rest of us. They think their way is the only way. This arrogance will lead to conflict. The only conflict I see here is the one you're creating," Commander Torres said, ignoring the rule about speaking without permission. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some aliens supported the humans, but most agreed with the Zephyrians and Korthak. Jake watched his friends and allies being shouted down by beings who had once welcomed humanity to the galaxy. Chancellor Vexti raised his hand for silence. "The debate is over. We will now vote on Resolution 847, the mandatory relocation of all humans to the Outer Rim territories, beyond the civilized boundaries of galactic space." Jake felt his heart sink. He knew how this vote would go. The fear and suspicion in the chamber was too strong. The aliens had made up their minds before the meeting even started. One by one, the delegations voted. The Korthak voted yes. The Zephyrians voted yes. The Crystalline Collective voted yes. Even some of humanity's former allies voted yes, though they looked ashamed as they did it. When the voting was finished, Chancellor Vexti announced the results. Resolution 847 passes by a vote of 10-2. Humanity has one standard year: to relocate all colonies, stations, and vessels beyond the galactic boundary. Any human presence in civilized space after that time will be considered an act of war. Jake looked around the chamber one last time. In the faces of the alien delegates he saw relief, fear, and guilt. They thought they were protecting themselves. But Jake wondered what they were really afraid of. As he walked back to his seat, Dr. Brown grabbed his arm. "Jake, I've been monitoring some unusual transmissions. Several of the delegates have been talking about something called the Watchers and deep sleep ending. I think there's something else going on here." Jake nodded and activated his communicator. "Priority message to Earth Command. Tell them to start packing. We're going home." Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES frontier, watching the largest movement of people in galactic history. Through the main viewing window, she could see hundreds of ships stretching out in all directions. Some were massive colony transports carrying entire cities' worth of people. Others were smaller vessels loaded with families and their possessions. Military ships moved between them like protective shepherds watching over their flock. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council's ultimatum. The evacuation was ahead of schedule, but Kate knew it was breaking hearts across the galaxy. Every day she received reports from colony worlds as they shut down their cities and abandoned their homes. Places where humans had lived for generations were being left empty, their buildings standing like tombstones in the wilderness. "Admiral, we're getting another transmission from the Meridian colony," said Lieutenant Sam Parker from the communications station. "They're requesting 2 more days to finish the evacuation." Kate looked at the tactical display showing their current position. They were still inside the boundary zone, but barely. Every extra day they stayed was a risk. "Tell them they have 18 hours. After that, we leave with or without them." "Yes, ma'am." Captain Ben Clark's voice came through the communication system from his position with the civilian fleet. "Kate, we've got a problem. The transport ship New Hope is reporting engine trouble. They're carrying 8,000 people from the agricultural colonies." Kate rubbed her temples. "Problems like this happened every day during the evacuation. What's their status?" "They can make it to the rendezvous point, but they'll need escort. Their engines are running at 60% power." "Send the cruiser Memphis to escort them," Kate ordered. "And have Major Davis prep a repair crew in case they need emergency assistance." Major Amy Davis was already moving before Kate finished speaking. The young officer had been coordinating the military escort for the entire evacuation. She never seemed to sleep, always working to keep the civilian ships safe. The evacuation wasn't just about moving people. Humans had built entire industries in the civilized sectors of the galaxy. They had to dismantle factories, mining operations, and research stations. Valuable equipment was loaded onto cargo ships. Everything else was left behind for the aliens to claim. Kate watched a group of alien ships on the long-range sensors. They had been following the human convoy for 3 days, staying just out of weapons range. She knew they were waiting for the humans to finish leaving so they could claim the abandoned colonies. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the alien vessel Corvin Strike," Lieutenant Parker announced. Kate sighed. The Korthak had been the most aggressive in pushing for human removal. "Put them through." The main screen showed the gray, rocky face of a Korthak commander. His 4 red eyes glowed with anger as he spoke. "Human Admiral, your ships are moving too slowly. The deadline approaches, and you still occupy 17 systems." "Commander, we are evacuating as quickly as possible," Kate replied calmly. "Arr. People have lived on these worlds for decades. Moving them safely takes time. Your people should have left faster." The council grows impatient. Kate felt her anger rising, but she kept her voice steady. "Our people are civilians. They have children, elderly, and sick among them. We will not abandon them to speed up your schedule." The Korthak commander's eyes narrowed. "Perhaps you need motivation to move faster." The transmission ended, and Kate immediately called General Nick Hayes, the commander of the human military forces. "Nick, we've got Korthak ships shadowing our convoys. I think they're planning something." "I've been tracking them too," Hayes replied. "My scouts report similar groups near the other evacuation routes. They're coordinating something." Kate's worst fears were confirmed 2 hours later. The transport convoy led by Captain Clark came under attack near the Vega system. 6 Korthak warships emerged from behind an asteroid field and opened fire on the civilian ships. "All military units, respond to distress call from Sector 7, Kate ordered. Captain Martinez, take your squadron and assist Captain Clark immediately." Captain Tony Martinez commanded the fast attack squadron assigned to the evacuation. His ships were smaller than the Korthak vessels, but they were faster and more maneuverable. "On our way, Admiral. ETA 12 minutes. Kate watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. The Korthak were targeting the transport ship's engines, trying to disable them rather than destroy them. They wanted to force the humans to abandon their people and leave faster, but the Korthak had made a mistake. They expected the humans to panic and run. Instead, the civilian ships moved into defensive formation while the military vessels engaged. The attackers Even the unarmed cargo ships turned to help, using their bulk to shield the transports carrying families. Captain Clark's voice came through the communication system, calm despite the chaos around him. All civilian ships maintain formation, do not break ranks. Our military will handle the attackers. Captain Martinez and his squadron arrived like a storm. The human fighters moved in perfect coordination, their weapons targeting the Korthek ship's weapon systems rather than trying to destroy them. Within minutes, 3 of the alien vessels were disabled and retreating. "This is Captain Martinez to all Korthek vessels," Tony broadcast on an open channel. "You attack civilian evacuation ships. That is a war crime under galactic law. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The remaining Korthek ships pulled back, but their commander sent a final transmission. "You cannot protect everyone, humans. We will be watching." After the battle, Kate called a meeting with her senior officers. Major Davis, Captain Martinez, and General Hayes joined her in the conference room via hologram. "They're testing us," General Hayes said. "They want to see how we'll react to attacks on our people." "They're also trying to make us leave people behind," Major Davis added. "If we abandon slow ships to save time, it proves their point that we're selfish." Kate looked at the tactical display showing their current position. They were still weeks away from the Outer Rim territories, and the alien attacks were becoming more frequent. "We need to change our approach. Split the fleet into smaller groups. It'll be harder for them to attack everyone at once." "That's risky," General Hayes warned. "Smaller groups are easier targets." "Maybe," Kate agreed. "But it also means we can't lose everything in one attack." Lieutenant Parker interrupted the meeting. "Admiral, I'm picking up those strange transmissions again. The ones about the Watchers and deep sleep ending, but this time I've got more information." Kate turned to the young communications officer. "What kind of information?" "The transmissions are coming from the Outer Rim, beyond our destination. And they're not just random chatter. They're coordinated, like some kind of early warning system." Captain Martinez leaned forward. "Early warning for what?" "I don't know, sir. But the alien ships that have been following us keep sending reports about these energy readings." "They seem scared of something." Kate felt a chill run down her spine. "What kind of energy readings?" "Unknown type, ma'am. But they're massive. And, they're getting stronger." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication from the science ship UES Discovery. Dr. Peter Grant, one of the researchers who had stayed behind to study the abandoned human colonies, appeared on the screen. His face was pale with fear. "Admiral Sullivan, you need to see this. We've detected massive energy signatures near the old colony sites. They're coming from areas that humans always avoided building near, places we thought were just dead space." "What kind of signatures?" Kate asked. "I don't know, but they match some theoretical models we've been working on. Models for something that shouldn't exist anymore." Dr. Grant sent his data to the Frontier's computers. As Kate reviewed the information, she realized that the human colonies hadn't been placed randomly. They formed a pattern, a network of monitoring. Stations watching the empty spaces between the stars. "Dr. Grant, did we know about this threat when we established the colonies?" "Some of our scientists suspected something, but we never had proof. The colonies were placed to monitor and contain whatever was out there." Kate looked at her officers. "We need to warn the Galactic Council." "They won't listen," General Hayes said. "They just want us gone?" "Then we'll have to handle this ourselves," Kate replied. "Send a message to all human ships. Tell them to prepare for the possibility that we might need to turn back." As the human fleet continued its journey toward the Outer Rim, Kate wondered what they were really running from. The aliens had expelled humanity to protect themselves, but Kate suspected they had just removed the galaxy's best defense against something far worse than human ambition. Behind them, deep in the abandoned human colonies, ancient sensors continued their lonely vigil. They had been watching and waiting for over 1,000 years. Now, finally, they were detecting movement in the dark spaces between the stars. Something was waking up. 3 months had passed since the last human ship left the civilized sectors of the galaxy. The Galactic Council had celebrated their victory with grand speeches about peace and stability. Chancellor Vextai had declared the beginning of a new age of harmony among the alien species, but harmony was not what the galaxy was experiencing. Captain Zethkar of the Zephyrian patrol ship Blue Dawn stared at his instrument panel in confusion. For the third time this week, his ship's power systems had failed without warning. The backup generators had kicked in, but the main power core showed no signs of damage or malfunction. "Engineering, what's the status on the power core?" he asked through the ship's communication system. "Still nothing wrong with it, Captain," came the reply from his chief engineer. "All systems show normal operation, but the power output keeps dropping to zero for exactly 47 seconds, then returns to full power." Zethkar had been patrolling the former human territories for 2 months, making sure no humans had stayed behind. Instead of finding hidden human bases, he had found something much more disturbing. Every system his ship visited showed the same strange power fluctuations. Other patrol ships reported similar problems. The communication console beeped with an incoming message. "Captain, this is Patrol Command. We're receiving reports from 17 different ships about power failures. All ships are operating in former human space." "Any pattern to the failures?" Zethkar asked. "They all occur near the former human colonies. The closer you get to their old settlements, the worse the problems become." Zethkar looked at his navigation display. His current position was only a few thousand kilometers from the abandoned human colony of Terra Nova. The settlement had been one of the largest human cities in this sector, home to over 3 million people. Now it was empty, its buildings standing dark and silent. "Take us closer to the colony," he ordered his pilot. "Sir, Command ordered us to maintain a safe distance from human installations. The humans are gone." "What harm can empty buildings do?" As the Blue Dawn approached Terra Nova, the power fluctuations became more frequent. The ship's lights flickered constantly, and several computer systems shut down completely. But something else was happening too. The ship's sensors were detecting energy readings that shouldn't exist. "Captain, I'm picking up massive power signatures from the planet's surface," the sensor operator reported. "But according to our scans, there's no active technology down there. Where are the readings coming from?" "That's the strange part, sir. They're coming from areas the humans never built on, places they left completely empty." Zethkar studied the sensor data. The human colony on Terra Nova had been built in a careful pattern with large gaps between different districts. The aliens had always assumed this was poor planning, but now he wondered if there was another reason. "Send a team to investigate those empty areas," he ordered. "Sir, that might not be wise. The energy readings are increasing." Before Zethkar could respond, his ship's communication system activated on its own. A voice spoke through the speakers, but it wasn't coming from any known source. The voice was deep and mechanical, like the sound of grinding metal. "The watchers grow silent, the barriers weaken, the deep sleep ends. Every alien on the bridge froze." The voice spoke again, this time in a language none of them recognized. The words seemed to come from the ship itself, as if the metal walls were speaking. "Cut all power to the communication system," Zethkar ordered. "Sir, the power is already cut." The voice is still coming through. The mysterious voice continued for several minutes, speaking in different languages. Some of the words sounded ancient, older than any known civilization. When it finally stopped, the ship's power systems returned to normal. "Get us away from this planet," Zethkar commanded. "Now." As the Blue Dawn retreated from Terra Nova, Zethkar sent an urgent report to Patrol Command. He wasn't the only one. Similar reports were coming from patrol ships throughout the former human territories. Empty human colonies were showing signs of unknown activity. Ancient voices were speaking through ship communication systems. Energy readings were increasing across hundreds of worlds on the distant planet of Kepler Prime, where the Galactic Council met. Chancellor Vextai read the patrol reports with growing concern. The strange incidents were spreading beyond the former human territories. 3 space stations had reported complete power failures. 2 cargo ships had disappeared without sending distress signals. A research facility studying stellar phenomena had gone completely silent. "This is clearly some kind of human sabotage," General Fulton declared during an emergency council meeting. "They left behind hidden technology to cause problems for us. But our sensors show no human technology in the affected areas," the Altarian representative said. "Whatever is causing these problems, it's not human in origin." Dr. Peter Grant sat in a detention cell on the Zephyrian military base, reading through the reports that his guards had accidentally left where he could see them. As a human scientist who had stayed behind to study archaeological sites, he had been arrested when the strange incidents began. His research partner, Dr. Helen Cross, was in the cell next to him. They had been working together to understand the mysterious energy readings when the Zephyrian military captured them. "Helen, are you reading this?" Peter whispered through the thin wall between their cells. "The power fluctuations?" "Yes, they match the theoretical models we developed last year." Peter felt a chill run down his spine. "The models for the Devourers, it has to be. The energy signatures are identical to what we predicted. The Devourers were a theoretical threat that human scientists had been studying for decades. Ancient alien texts spoke of a race that had consumed entire star systems before mysteriously vanishing. Most scientists thought they were just legends, but a few human researchers had taken the threat seriously. If the Devourers are real and they're waking up, then the galaxy is in serious trouble," Helen said. "More than serious." The models showed they could consume a star system in days and grow stronger with each victory. Peter looked at the reports again. The pattern was clear to him now. The energy readings were coming from dimensional rifts, exactly like the ones described in the ancient texts. The Devourers had been sleeping in a parallel dimension, waiting for the right conditions to return. "Helen, I think the human colonies were never meant to be just settlements. They were monitoring stations." "What do you mean?" "Look at the placement. Every human colony was built near areas of dimensional instability. We weren't just expanding randomly. We were setting up a network to watch for signs of the Devourers." Helen was quiet for a long moment. "That means the Council didn't just expel." "Yes, they destroyed the galaxy's early warning system." Meanwhile, in the deep space between star systems, something stirred in the darkness. The dimensional barriers that had held it back for centuries were weakening. The Watchers that had monitored its prison were gone. Soon it would be free to feed again. Captain Tony Martinez stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery, part of the human refugee fleet now traveling toward the outer rim. His ship's long-range sensors were picking up the same energy readings that the alien patrol ships had detected. "Captain, we're receiving automated signals from the monitoring stations we left behind," his communications officer reported. "I thought those were shut down during the evacuation." "They were, sir." "But they're activating on their own?" "The signals are warnings about dimensional instability." Martinez looked at the data streaming across his screens. The monitoring network that humanity had secretly built was still functioning, even without human oversight. It was detecting something that made his blood run cold. "Send a priority message to Admiral Sullivan," he ordered. "Tell her we need to turn the fleet around. The galaxy is about to face something much worse than human expansion." In the parallel dimension that existed alongside normal space, ancient hunger stirred. The Devourers had been waiting for the barriers to weaken. Now, with the Watchers gone and the monitoring network failing, they could finally return to the galaxy they had once ruled. The first scout ship began to push through the dimensional barrier near the Arcturus system. Its biomechanical hull stretched and twisted as it forced its way into normal space. Behind it, thousands of other ships waited for the signal to follow. The invasion had begun, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming. The first Devourer ship emerged from the dimensional rift like a nightmare made real. It was massive, larger than any space station the galaxy had ever built. Its hull looked like living metal, dark and twisted, with veins of red energy pulsing through its surface. Strange growths covered its exterior, as if the ship itself was a living creature. Commander Veltax of the Altarian Research Station Starlight watched in horror as the alien vessel materialized near his facility. His station was studying stellar formation in the Arcturus system, home to 6 billion Altarians living on 4 different worlds. All stations, this is Starlight Command. We have an unknown vessel of massive proportions. Requesting immediate assistance from the defense fleet. The Devourer ship moved toward the research station with terrifying purpose. As it approached, the station's sensors went wild. Energy readings were off the charts, but the ship wasn't using any technology that the Altarians could understand. Commander, the alien vessel is emitting some kind of energy beam. His sensor operator reported, fear clear in his voice. Veltax watched in disbelief as the energy beam touched his station's outer hull. The metal began to dissolve, not melting, or breaking apart, but simply disappearing as if it had never existed. The energy from the destroyed metal flowed back to the Devourer ship, making the red veins in its hull glow brighter. Evacuate the station immediately, Veltax ordered. All personnel to the escape pods, but it was too late. The Devourer ship's beam swept across the entire research station in seconds. 200 Altarian scientists and workers simply vanished, along with their facility. The ship grew slightly larger, feeding on the matter and energy it had consumed. The Altarian defense fleet arrived 30 minutes later to find empty space where the research station had been. The Devourer ship was already moving toward the nearest planet, its hunger growing stronger. Admiral Kethmar, commander of the Altarian fleet, had never seen anything like the alien vessel. All ships maintain safe distance and prepare for defensive action. Do not engage until we understand what we're dealing with. The Devourer ship ignored the Altarian warships completely. It moved past them as if they didn't exist, heading directly for Altair Prime, the system's main world. As it approached the planet, the ship began to change. Parts of its hull opened like flower petals, revealing a massive energy collector underneath. It's targeting the planet's surface, Admiral Kethmar's tactical officer reported. Energy readings are increasing exponentially. The Devourer ship positioned itself in orbit around Altair Prime and began to feed. Energy beams swept across the planet's surface, consuming everything they touched. Cities, forests, oceans, and mountains all disappeared, their matter and energy flowing up to the alien ship. 6 billion Altarians died in less than an hour as their entire world was stripped away layer by layer. Open fire! All ships engaged the enemy. Admiral Kethmar commanded. The Altarian fleet launched every weapon they had at the Devourer ship. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and nuclear missiles struck the alien vessel's hull. For a moment, the Admiral thought they had damaged it. But then the ship's wounds began to heal, the hull regenerating faster than the Altarians could damage. It got worse. The ship was growing larger. Every piece of matter it consumed from the planet made it stronger. As Altair Prime died, the Devourer ship doubled in size. Admiral, our weapons are having no effect. The ship is repairing itself and getting bigger. Kethmar watched helplessly as the alien vessel finished consuming his homeworld. Where Altair Prime had once been, only empty space remained. The planet's star grew dimmer, as if the Devourer ship had stolen some of its energy too. The alien ship turned toward the next planet in the system, but not before sending out a signal into deep space. The signal was answered by more dimensional rifts opening throughout the galaxy. Dozens of Devourer ships began emerging from parallel space, each one heading toward a different star system. On Kepler Prime, the Galactic Council received the news with stunned silence. Chancellor Vextai read the report from the Arcturus system 3 times before he could believe it. An entire world, 6 billion people, consumed in less than 2 hours by a single alien ship. This must be some kind of human weapon, General, Thulzin insisted. They're using this attack to force us to let them return. Sir, our intelligence shows the humans are still weeks away from the outer rim, one of his advisors reported. They couldn't have reached the Arcturus system. Then, they left this weapon behind, programmed to activate after they left. Dr. Peter Grant and Dr. Helen Cross were brought before the council in chains. The Zephyrian guards had decided that the human scientists might have answers about the mysterious attack. You will explain this weapon your people have unleashed, Chancellor Vextai demanded. Peter looked at the alien leaders with a mixture of anger and pity. It's not our weapon. It's the enemy we've been trying to protect you from. Lies, General Fulzen growled. Humans are responsible for this attack. The Devourers are an ancient race that consumed most of the galaxy millions of years ago, Helen explained. They've been sleeping in a parallel dimension, waiting for the barriers to weaken. And you expect us to believe this fairy tale? The Chancellor asked. Peter activated a datapad that one of the guards had forgotten to take from him. Look at these energy readings. Compare them to the ancient texts in your own archives. The Devourers aren't a legend. They're real, and they're back. While the Council argued, more reports arrived. The Centauri Collective had lost 2 colonies to Devourer attacks. The Crystalline Empire reported 3 of their worlds going silent. The Korthic Dominion's outer territories were under assault by ships that consumed everything in their path. How many of these Devourer ships are there? The Altarian representative asked, his voice shaking with fear. According to the ancient texts, thousands, Helen replied. Maybe tens of thousands. And they get stronger with every world they consume. The council chamber erupted in panicked voices. Some delegates demanded immediate military action. Others suggested trying to negotiate with the Devourers. A few quietly began making plans to evacuate their homeworlds. Silence? Chancellor Vextai commanded. We will organize a combined fleet to destroy these ships. You can't destroy them with conventional weapons, Peter said. We tried to tell you this before. The Devourers are beyond anything you've faced. Then what do you suggest? Bring back the humans, Helen said simply. We've been studying this threat for decades. We know how to fight them, General Fulzen laughed harshly. We're supposed to beg the humans to save us? After we expelled them from civilized space? Yes, Peter replied. Because if you don't, the galaxy will be consumed within months. As if to prove his point, another report arrived. The Devourer fleet had reached the Vega system, home to the peaceful Villani Collective. 12 billion Villani lived on 7 worlds throughout the system. The Devourers consumed all 7 worlds. In a single day, their fleet growing to over 100 ships. They're exponential, Helen explained to the stunned council. Each world they consume makes them stronger. Each victory brings more ships through the dimensional barriers. Soon they'll be unstoppable. Chancellor Vextai looked at the tactical display showing Devourer ships spreading throughout the galaxy like a plague. Already, 23 star systems had gone silent. The alien fleet sent to stop them had been destroyed or had fled in terror. How long before they reached the core worlds? He asked quietly. At their current rate of expansion, 6 weeks, Peter replied. Maybe less if they keep growing stronger. The council chamber fell silent. 23 systems consumed in 3 days, billions of people dead, and the Devourers were just getting started. Send a message to the human fleet, Chancellor Vextai said finally. Tell them we need to talk. Sir, they're beyond our communication range, an aide reported. The humans are in the Outer Rim territories. Then send a fast ship to find them, the Chancellor ordered, and pray they're willing to listen. But even as the Galactic Council prepared to swallow their pride and ask for human help, the Devourer fleet was already targeting the next group of systems. Ancient hunger drove them forward, and they had waited too long to be denied their feast. The galaxy that had expelled humanity for being too dangerous was about to learn what real danger looked like. Commander Julia Harris piloted her scout ship through the debris field that had once been the Proxima Research Station. The twisted metal and frozen atmosphere told the story of another Devourer attack. 17 star systems had fallen in the past week, and the alien death toll was climbing into the hundreds of billions. Julia's mission was simple, but dangerous. She was leading a small reconnaissance team back into the civilized sectors to gather intelligence on the Devourer advance. What she found was worse than anyone had imagined. Command, this is Harris. The Proxima system is completely dead. No survivors, no intact structures. Even the asteroids have been consumed. Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice crackled through the communication system from the human refugee fleet. Still days away in the Outer Rim? Any sign of the Devourer ships? Negative. They've moved on to the next target. But Admiral, I'm picking up massive energy readings from the direction of the core worlds. I think they're accelerating their advance. Julia checked her sensors again. The readings were terrifying. The Devourer fleet had grown from a single ship to over 300 vessels in just 2 weeks. Each consumed world made them stronger, and their hunger seemed endless. Harris, we're receiving alien transmissions on multiple frequencies. Patch them through. Julia adjusted her communication array and immediately heard dozens of desperate voices. Alien species throughout the galaxy were broadcasting pleas for help, surrender offers, and evacuation requests. But the most disturbing transmissions were the ones directed at the human fleet. Human ships, this is the Zephyrian Emergency Council. We formally request immediate assistance against the unknown alien threat. We are prepared to discuss terms for your return to civilized space. This is the Korthek High Command calling any human vessels. Our worlds are under attack by creatures beyond our ability to fight. We need your help. Human fleet, please respond. This is the Altarian Remnant. Our homeworlds are gone. We have nowhere else to turn. Julia felt a mixture of anger and sadness as she listened to the transmissions. These were the same aliens who had expelled humanity just months ago, calling them dangerous and unpredictable. Now they were begging for help from the people they had cast out. Back on the U's frontier, Admiral Sullivan called an emergency meeting of the human leadership. President Alex Morgan joined the conference via hologram, along with General Nick Hayes, Dr. Rachel Stone, and several other senior officials. The alien requests for help are flooding our communication systems, Admiral. Sullivan reported, they're offering us anything we want in exchange for assistance against the Devourers. General Hayes crossed his arms and glared at the tactical display. Let them burn. They made their choice when they expelled us from the galaxy. Nick, we can't just watch billions of people die, Dr. Stone argued. Whatever they did to us, innocent. Civilians don't deserve to be consumed by those monsters. Innocent? General Hayes laughed bitterly. Where were these innocent civilians when their governments voted to throw us out of our homes? They cheered when we were forced to leave. President Morgan studied the reports from Commander Harris's reconnaissance mission. The scale of destruction was horrifying. Entire civilizations were being wiped out in days. Soon, there might be no one left to save. What's our current position? Relative to the core worlds? He asked Admiral Sullivan. We're still 6 days out at maximum speed. But Alex, even if we turn around now, we might be too late to make a difference. Captain Tony Martinez appeared on the conference screen from his science vessel. Mr. President, I've been analyzing the Devourer attack patterns with my team. Dr. Emma White has made some important discoveries. Dr. White joined the conversation, her face grim with worry. The Devourers aren't just randomly consuming worlds. They're targeting specific locations? Places where the dimensional barriers are weakest. What does that mean? President Morgan asked. It means they're trying to open permanent gateways between dimensions. If they succeed, unlimited numbers of Devourer ships could pour through. The galaxy wouldn't just be conquered, it would be completely consumed. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The threat was even worse than they had imagined. How much time do we have before they open these permanent gateways? Admiral Sullivan asked. Based on their current progress, maybe. 2 weeks, Dr. White replied. 3 weeks at most. General Hayes shook his head. It's not enough time. Even if we go back, we can't save the galaxy with our small fleet. Maybe we can't save everyone, President Morgan said quietly, but we might be able to save some of them. The debate that followed was fierce. Some argued that humanity owed the aliens nothing after their treatment. Others insisted that letting entire species die was morally wrong. The discussion continued for hours while the Devourer fleet consumed 3 more worlds. The turning point came when they received a transmission from an unexpected source. The message was weak and badly damaged, but the voice was unmistakably human. "This is Dr. Peter Grant calling any human ships. Helen and I are being held on Kepler Prime. The aliens have released us to help coordinate their defense, but they don't understand what they're facing. The Devourers are heading for the Centauri Collective next. Billions of people are going to die." Dr. Grant's voice cracked with emotion as he continued, "I know what the aliens did to us. I know we have every right to turn our backs on them. But there are children on those worlds. Families just like our own. Please, if there's any way to help them, we have to try." The conference room was silent for a long moment. Then President Morgan spoke. "Dr. Grant is right. We can't let our anger turn us into monsters. Admiral Sullivan, change course for the core worlds." "Sir, many of our people won't understand this decision," General Hayes warned. "They'll think we're fools for helping the aliens who expelled us." "Then we'll be fools," President Morgan replied. "But we'll be fools who can sleep at night." As the human fleet changed direction, heading back toward the galactic core, the automated defense systems left behind in the abandoned human colonies began to activate. Deep in the underground installations of Terra Nova, New Geneva, and dozens of other worlds, ancient machines awakened from their sleep. Dr. Helen Cross, now working frantically with alien scientists on Kepler Prime, detected the activation signals. "Peter, the Human Defense Network is coming online." "What defense network?" Chancellor Vextai demanded. "Every human colony had hidden installations designed to fight the Devourers," Peter explained. "But they need to be manually activated and coordinated. It's a suicide mission for whoever does it." The Chancellor looked at the tactical display showing 37 consumed systems and hundreds of billions of dead. "How many installations are there?" 43 major sites, plus hundreds of smaller ones," Helen replied. "If we can activate them all simultaneously, we might be able to create a containment field that traps the Devourers in normal space. Without access to the dimensional rifts, they can be fought with conventional weapons. But someone has to activate each installation manually," Peter added. "The energy release will destroy everything within 100 kilometers." As the human fleet raced toward the doomed galaxy, volunteers from both human and alien ships began, preparing for the most desperate mission in galactic history. They would have to reach the abandoned human colonies, activate the defense network, and sacrifice themselves to give their people a chance to fight back. The Centauri Collective, humanity's former allies who had voted for their expulsion under alien pressure, sent a final transmission to the human fleet. "We're sorry, we were wrong. Please forgive us." The transmission ended abruptly as the Devourer fleet reached the Centauri system and began their feast. The human fleet arrived at the edge of civilized space to find the galaxy burning. 41 star systems had been consumed by the Devourers, and their massive fleet of over 500 ships was advancing toward the core worlds like a plague of metal and hunger. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the UES frontier, watching the tactical display with horror. The aliens' combined fleets were scattered and broken, running from an enemy they couldn't understand or fight. Billions of refugees filled space stations and colony ships, fleeing from worlds that no longer existed. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council," Lieutenant Sam Parker reported. Chancellor Vextai appeared on the main screen, his proud demeanor replaced by desperate fear. Behind him, the council chamber was in chaos, with alien delegates arguing and shouting over each other. "Admiral Sullivan, we need your help," the Chancellor said, the words seeming to cause him physical pain. "Our fleets cannot stop these creatures. Our worlds are dying. We formally apologize for our treatment of humanity and request immediate assistance." Kate looked at the broken alien leader for a long moment. "What exactly are you asking us to do, Chancellor?" "Save us," he replied simply. "Save what's left of the galaxy." Captain Tony Martinez joined the conversation from his science vessel. "Admiral, Dr. White and I have been working with Dr. Grant and Dr. Cross on Kepler Prime. We think we can activate the Human Defense Network, but it will require coordinated strikes on 43 installations. What kind of strikes? Kate asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Manual activation, Dr. Emma White explained. Each installation needs someone to physically start the containment sequence. The energy release will be massive. Anyone within 100 kilometers won't survive. The bridge fell silent. Kate looked around at her crew, seeing the same grim understanding in their eyes. They were being asked to sacrifice themselves to save the people who had expelled them from their homes. "How many volunteers do we have?" Kate asked quietly. "More than we need," General Nick Hayes replied, joining the conversation. When word spread through the fleet, thousands of people volunteered, military and civilian alike. They all remember what it was like to have a home in the galaxy. Major Amy Davis spoke up from the tactical station. "Admiral, I volunteer to lead the activation teams. These are my people we're trying to save too, even if they don't want us around." Kate felt a surge of pride in her people. Even after everything they had endured, they were willing to sacrifice themselves for others. "Major, select your teams. We'll need volunteers for each installation." As the human fleet moved toward the abandoned colonies, the Devourer advance reached the Kepler system. The Galactic Council evacuated to emergency bunkers while their remaining fleets made a final desperate stand. The battle lasted less than an hour before the alien ships were overwhelmed. Dr. Peter Grant and Dr. Helen Cross worked frantically in the underground command center, coordinating with the human fleet. Ancient human technology that had been hidden for decades was finally revealing its true purpose. "Peter, the network is responding," Helen said excitedly. "The installations are powering up." "How long until we can activate them?" "The human teams need another 6 hours to reach all the target sites." Peter looked at the tactical display showing the Devourer fleet consuming Kepler Prime's outer colonies. "We might not have 6 hours?" Above them, General Hayes led a desperate holding action with the combined human and alien fleets. The alien ships, designed for exploration and peaceful trade, were no match for the biomechanical Devourers. But the human vessels, built by a species that understood war, fought with savage efficiency. "All ships, target the Devourer command vessels," Hayes ordered. "Use the disruption charges Dr. White developed. Aim for the energy collectors." The human weapons were different from anything the aliens had ever seen. Instead of trying to destroy the Devourer ships, they disrupted their ability to regenerate and grow. For the first time since the invasion began, the ancient predators found themselves taking damage they couldn't instantly heal. Captain Ben Clark led the civilian evacuation fleet, moving refugee ships away from the combat zone. His cargo vessels and passenger liners had been converted into makeshift hospitals and shelters, carrying survivors from dozens of destroyed worlds. "All civilian ships maintain course for the Outer Rim," Clark broadcasted. "The military will hold them off as long as possible." But even with their new weapons, the human fleet was vastly outnumbered. The Devourers had grown too strong during their feeding spree across the galaxy. For every enemy ship the humans disabled, 2 more took its place. "Admiral, we're taking heavy casualties," General Hayes reported. "We can't hold them much longer." Kate watched her people die defending aliens who had cast them out just months ago. Ships that had carried families away from their homes were now burning in space, their crews sacrificing themselves for a galaxy that didn't want them. "Major Davis, what's the status on the activation teams?" 38 installations ready." "For activation," Amy replied from the surface of Terra Nova. "We need 5 more minutes." "You have them," Kate promised. She turned to her crew. "All power to weapons. Take us into the heart of their fleet." The UES Frontier, flagship of the human fleet, charged directly at the largest Devourer vessel. Kate's ship drew the attention of dozens of enemy vessels, taking massive damage but buying precious time for the activation teams. "All installations report ready," Major Davis announced. Beginning activation sequence. Across 43 worlds, human volunteers activated the ancient defense network. The installations erupted in blinding columns of energy that reached into space itself, tearing holes in the fabric of reality. The energy formed a massive containment field around the Devourer fleet, cutting off their access to the dimensional rifts. Major Davis and her teams died instantly as the installations released their power, but their sacrifice worked. The Devourers found themselves trapped in normal space, unable to retreat to their parallel dimension or call for reinforcements. Now, General Hayes shouted, "All ships full assault!" The combined human and alien fleets launched everything they had at the trapped Devourers. Without their ability to regenerate and grow, the ancient predators were vulnerable for the first time in millions of years. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed, but slowly the tide turned. The Devourers, cut off from their source of power, began to weaken. One by one, their massive vessels were disabled or destroyed. When the last Devourer ship fell silent, the galaxy was left in ruins. 41 star systems were gone forever, consumed by the ancient hunger. Hundreds of billions of people had died. The survivors faced a future of rebuilding from almost nothing. Chancellor Vextai emerged from his bunker to find Admiral Sullivan waiting for him. The human officer looked tired and sad, having lost many friends in the final battle. "Admiral, we owe you everything," the Chancellor said. "Without your sacrifice, the galaxy would have been consumed completely." Kate looked at the broken alien leader. "We didn't do it for you, Chancellor. We did it because it was right. Please, tell us what you want. Any systems, any resources, anything at all?" Kate smiled sadly. "We never wanted your systems, Chancellor. We just wanted to belong." President Alex Morgan addressed the Galactic Council one final time. "Humanity will establish colonies in the devastated regions, not to claim territory, but to stand guard. The Devourers may return someday, and when they do, we'll be ready." The aliens who had once feared human expansion now begged them to spread throughout the galaxy. They had learned the difference between conquest and protection, between aggression and strength. As human ships moved to establish new settlements in the consumed systems, they carried with them the memory of those who had sacrificed themselves for a galaxy that had rejected them. The volunteers who died activating the defense network became heroes in the stories told by every species. The galaxy was scarred but alive, protected by the very people it had tried to cast out. And in the empty spaces between the stars, new human installations watched and waited, ready to face whatever darkness might emerge from the void. Humanity had found their place in the galaxy not as conquerors or invaders, but as guardians. They had paid the price for redemption in blood and sacrifice, proving that some bonds are stronger than prejudice and fear.